Hey guys, and welcome to a slightly different video, Tarkov related, but I've really wanted to make this video for a little while now, for a few weeks now. Those of you that watch me on Twitch will know that we've been playing through the no Flea challenge on our standard accounts. That's me and Hayes, and I just wanted to talk to you about what I've learned, how it feels, why I love it so much. So stay tuned if you do like this video. Make sure you hit that like button, consider subscribing, and don't forget to press that notification bell. Enjoy. So there are a few things about the flea market that have caused some annoyance in effectively how the game has been played, the style of the game, and so I wanted to jump in on this no flea challenge to go back to how Tarkov was for me when I first started playing the game. When I first started playing the game, there was no flea market. To be fair, when I first started playing the game, there weren't very many maps either. So a lot has changed, and it's not just the flea market that's changed since my early experiences onto my newer experiences, but I still wanted to talk about it because I feel like the flea market has the biggest impact, especially on what I like to call the progression curve. So the big argument against the flea that's used by a lot of people, myself included, is that progression ends at level 10. And with the flea, it kind of does. You can't access the flea until level 10. So for those first 10 levels, you're scrounging, you're scavenging, you're doing everything you can to get the pieces yourself. You're working, you're not just looting the most expensive items and the most meta equipment. You're there, you're looting like matches and tool cases and wrenches and pliers and lighters, and you're like, I need to get everything. I'm looting cans of bug spray called Paid just so that I can get my Salewers for my therapist task, right? And then you hit level 10. And when you hit level 10, suddenly every quest item that isn't found in raid, you buy off of the flea. Suddenly, you hit level 10, and even though the traders won't give you any armor above class 2, maybe 3, and the guns that they'll give you are basically, they're iron sights, AKs and SKSs and stuff. You can hop on the flea market, you can buy yourself out a meta M4, chuck on a class 5 armor, and go. I personally don't like that, because all you need to do is be lucky and have one little bit of windfall in your first 10 levels. Wait till level 10, sell that windfall item on the flea, buy yourself a full meta kit, and then use that to cannonball you through. You snowball along, you get more windfall items, you get more meta gear, and within a few raids of hitting level 10, you're up there competing with the big boys that are level 50 odd. That is my biggest problem with the flea market. That's the thing that I have the most difficulty with. Because pre-flea, there was this really long progression curve that ran all the way from level 1 to level 40. And that curve just kind of goes 1 to 10 and then straight up. At level 10, it just goes right the way up to where it normally finished at level 40. And it just feels like it's taking away from the game. And now, don't get me wrong. I understand your concerns, especially if you're a casual player and you think, oh, without the flea, I can't compete at all. Now, I would personally, at this point, say that's not the case. If the flea market didn't exist, you would actually be on a more level playing field with the people that are playing more often than you realize. In fact, the flea market gives the hardcore players even more of an advantage than it gives you casual players. That's what I would say. Anyway, as we get later on into this video, I'm going to talk about maybe some solutions that Battlestate can put into this. But there are a few other problems I have with the flea market, and that is that he who lucks out first can lock out those who come after. And what I mean by that is very, very evidently with things like the gunsmith tasks in early wipe, the plastic handguard to pump a 133. That handguard early wipe is like 400k on the flea, because the people that do luck out and find it want to make that money, right? And they don't care that the listing fee is crazy high, because they're still making a massive wad of profit. And unfortunately, because you can't get it now, technically you can through barters, and a lot of people don't realize this, but because you can't just buy it from traders, and it's not a very common item to find in raid, a lot of people end up falling into this rabbit hole of buying their gunsmith task items for 400k here, 300k there, 500k there, and suddenly they have no money. If they're playing on a standard account, they don't have any money for their stash upgrade, because all of their money has gone into just getting the mechanic quests progressed. And that is, well, it's not the way that I think the game should be played at all. But you know, there are positives to the flea. I'm not going to sit back and go, oh, there aren't positives to the flea, it's all negative. There are positives to the flea. There are a lot of quests. Now, admittedly, as the flea has existed, they've changed, Battlestate games have changed things. They've made a lot more quests found in raid only to encourage people to actually still scavenge and do things. They've obviously made the latest change in that you can't sell on the flea market unless the item is found in raid, which is stopping people from reselling, because that used to be a big problem, where people would buy out all of the traders' stock and then resell it at 4 times the price, or more. So that issue's gone, but there's still this massive scalping issue at the moment, which is a problem. And now, so their latest change with the loot tables, Battlestate Games' latest change with the loot tables, has definitely alleviated some of this. Now that you can actually go into raid, you can loot green weapon boxes and black weapon boxes and the wooden green crates. And you can pull out helmets, like good high tier helmets, high tier armor. Now guns is still a finicky bit. I really hope soon that they introduce the multi-tools function. So your Leatherman multi-tool is something you place for Peacekeeper down on the shoreline. On the shoreline, off shoreline. And a long time ago they said that eventually the plan for that multi-tool is that you're going to be able to modify your guns in raid, like modify the parts that you normally can't modify, that you normally can't change in raid. And that would be awesome if you had a multi-tool in your alpha container or whatever, or your gamma. And now you can go into raid, you can find a decent helmet, you can find a decent bit of armor, and you can get a gun which you can then find attachments for and slowly mod it out throughout the game. 0 to hero would become such a huge thing. It'd be fantastic. At the moment, there's still a lot of restrictions where obviously on the guns, because there's not much modding you can do to the guns that you find in these crates and stuff, unless of course you're managing to get your way into Kiba, or you're finding some of the really lucky spawns on reserve or such. But the point still stands. Like the loot tables have definitely helped alleviate some of this progression curve problem. Now, perhaps not in the correct way, because what these loot tables have essentially done is shorten the progression curve, much in the same way that the flea does, but through a natural looting system, which is a better thing than the flea, personally, but it still has shortened the progression curve, because now, if you farm enough weapon boxes and stuff, you can get high tier armor, high tier helmets, etc, etc, etc. So there are some bits and pieces there. So me and Hayes have been playing this No Flea challenge, and we've been absolutely loving it. We really have. It's been such a fantastic experience. Everything has meant something to us now. we were going into raids and we were looting certain items and we were like, this is so big, and to you guys, it's probably like a metal cutting scissor. A metal cutting scissor costs you like 30k on the Flea. To us, it's huge. We can finally make that mag box now. We can expand our stash. This is fantastic. And that feeling was what original Tarkov was all the time. That was what Tarkov, I think, was meant to be. And it's been great. It's been so much fun. Now, of course, as we progress down the levels and we unlock more trader stuff and all of that sort of thing, we're getting access to higher level gear, and that feeling is changing. That feeling is not the same, but it's still, it's still there. Whereas on my main account that's had access to the Flea for the last 40 levels, it got to level 10 and I just didn't care. I didn't care about my gear. I didn't care about like living or dying, just wanted to kill things. Because it didn't mean anything. There was no progression curve past level 10. You hit level 10 and then all you've got to do is complete quests and kill players. So anyway, I'm not gonna go on and ramble and rant all the time about 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 the Flea, but I am gonna talk about maybe some suggestions that perhaps might bring a bit of that original Tarkov back into like modern day Tarkov, I guess. And the first, which is obviously not a popular one, and in fact it's probably one that I personally wouldn't even want to happen. Maybe. Let's just remove the Flea. But that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. But removing the Flea would eliminate this progression curve problem completely. And in fact, I think it would actually make the game a lot more enjoyable for casual players, even though they're the ones that seem to be campaigning against the Flea. Like, against the removal of the Flea. Now, this would also have a detrimental effect on a certain playstyle of players, and this is generally Labs players. Labs players don't do quests. Labs players, well, the majority of. They just buy their gear on the Flea, they go Labs, they lose it. They buy more gear on the Flea. They don't care whether a piece of gear costs 70k, even though the trader sells it for 500 or like $50. They just buy it because Labs has so much money flowing in and out constantly, right? So the two sort of groups of players, one with reason, one without reason, campaigning like to keep the Flea, are casuals and Labs. Casuals don't really have a reason because their argument doesn't hold up, in my opinion. Labs players, their argument holds up, but then I would argue why are you playing the game that way? Why are you skipping 90% of the content just to play one map over and over and over and over? But the suggestions that are maybe more likely to occur are that you can restrict the Flea. Now, obviously, restrictions have already been put in place. Originally, the Flea was level 5, and then it was level 10 to actually get access to it and stuff. But what if you could only sell an item on the Flea Market once you had unlocked it through certain things? What if there were Flea Market tiers? Where you actually had like a ranking system on the Flea Market that was based on trader reputation, with, say, Ragman, who's the guy who runs the Flea Market, and you could only sell items up to a certain value based on your reputation level, or based on your Flea Market rank, right? So, for instance, if you're, at level 10, you just get the Flea, you're rank 0, you can only sell items on the Flea that are up to a value of 50,000 rubles. and you get your rank up to 2, and you can go to 100,000 rubles, and then you carry on. You eventually get to rank 10, and you can sell for 500,000 rubles, etc., etc., etc. I feel like this is the best solution, because the thing that it does is that it creates a value pool back into the game. For example, if a high level player goes to labs and he pulls out a tac tech and an AAC PC and a couple of great helmets, and he goes to put them on the flea, he'll be like, oh, my flea rank is only this, I can only sell it for this much, my profit is basically going to be nil because I can vendor it for more. So he vendors it, and suddenly you don't have this massive influx of high tier gear at fairly reasonable prices available, right? And you don't get scalpers either. Some guy finds, in early wipe, some guy finds the 133 plastic 4-stock, and he goes to the flea market and he's like, I'm going to put this up for 400,000 rubles. Someone's going to buy it because they're going to be desperate to get the gunsmith task done. Oh, crap, I can only put it up for 50k max. Damn. I feel like that is the best, most optimal solution. Whether it is the case or not, I can't tell you for sure. I don't have factual scientific information here. I just have my own personal opinions and thoughts. But I think that is probably the best way to deal with the progression curve of the flea, is to make traders worthwhile again. Is really, really the case, is to make traders worthwhile again. Now, the last suggestion is an interesting one, and that's to add another check mark, which is called the found on Raider check mark. So a lot of the high tier gear that is available on the flea, your AAC PCs, your tac techs, your helmets, your all that sort of thing, it's all looted from raiders, because it has to be found in raid to be able to sell it on the flea. So like 99 times out of 100, it's looted from a raider. And so you could add a check mark that was a found on raider check mark, and this check mark would either add a premium to listing it on the flea, which means the profits are heavily reduced, or it could altogether remove access to the flea, maybe because Ragman really doesn't want to piss off the raiders in case they end up coming and storming his marketplace or something, law related. That is also another solution. Now, I don't know whether that's I personally don't know the results that would have. Whereas the tier system, the rank system, like I can almost firmly tell you right now that it would be successful. Almost. Anyway, those would be my 3 suggestions. Obviously, the first one, bit of a meme, not going to happen. The last one could work, not 100% sure, but that middle one, that second one, the rank system on the fleet, I think that could really work for bringing back the vanilla original feeling of Tarkov, and extending that progression curve back out. I really do think so. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I've been Timoredbeard. This has been my little talk about the No Flea Challenge and the flea market itself. If you did enjoy, please do hit that like button, consider subscribing, and don't forget to press that notification bell. I do stream on Twitch Tuesday through Saturday starting at 12 PM BST. I'd love to catch you there. The link will be in the description below. Have a fantastic time. Take care.